The bog bodies, ancient people found perfectly preserved in European peat bogs. Peat bogs are unusual environments. They are cold, acidic, and oxygen-depleted, conditions that prevent the normal processes of decomposition from operating. The sphagnum moss that forms peat releases compounds called sphagnin that bind nitrogen and prevent bacterial growth. The tannins in the peat darken skin and tissue, acting as a natural preservative. The result is that bodies deposited in peat bogs can emerge thousands of years later with their skin, hair, nails, stomach contents, and even fingerprints intact, while their bones may have partially dissolved in the acidic environment. Tollund Man was discovered in a Danish peat bog in 1950 by peat cutters who initially believed they had found a recent murder victim. The police were called. What they found was a man approximately 400 years old. He is the best preserved of all bog bodies. His face is so well preserved that his stubble is visible. The expression on his face is peaceful, almost sleeping. He was wearing a pointed cap and a leather belt. Around his neck was a noose. He had been hanged. His last meal, recovered from his stomach, was a gruel made from barley, flax, and various wild plants. Grauballe Man, also from Denmark, was discovered in 1952. He dates to approximately 300 years ago and shows a different pattern of death. His throat had been cut from ear to ear, so violently that the vertebrae were cut. He also showed signs of having been struck on the head. His hands were so well preserved that fingerprints were taken and used to produce a fingerprint card, as if he were a modern crime scene victim. Analysis of his last meal revealed he had eaten a porridge of over 60 different plants, suggesting a special ritual meal rather than an ordinary dinner. What is remarkable about the bog bodies is the pattern that emerges when they are studied collectively. Many show signs of what appears to be overkill. They were killed multiple times in multiple ways, simultaneously or in sequence. A body might have been strangled, then drowned, then stabbed. Some appear to have been deposited in the bog in a careful, deliberate manner, placed with intention rather than hidden. Many show signs of a special or unusual last meal eaten shortly before death. These patterns have led the majority of archaeologists to conclude that many bog bodies represent human sacrifice rather than execution or murder. Lindow Man, found in Cheshire, England in 1984, is the most studied British bog body. He dates to the 1st century CE, the period of Roman conquest of Britain. He was approximately 25 years old, well-nourished, and had manicured nails suggesting he was not a manual laborer. He was killed in 3 ways simultaneously: hit on the head twice, strangled with a cord, and had his throat cut. He ate a last meal that included mistletoe pollen, a plant associated with druidic ritual. The triple death of Lindow Man closely parallels descriptions of Celtic human sacrifice in ancient sources. The Romans wrote extensively about Celtic human sacrifice, describing the Druids as practitioners of ritual killing. Until the discovery of the bog bodies, this was largely dismissed as Roman propaganda designed to justify their conquest of Celtic territories. The pattern of death and deposition in the bog bodies has rehabilitated the Roman accounts. The triple death described for some bog bodies matches closely with descriptions in Irish mythology of the threefold death of sacred kings: strangling, drowning, and wounding. The bogs appear to have been significant religious sites, where humans were offered to whatever powers the bog represented. Not all bog bodies are sacrifice victims. Some are likely accident victims who fell into bogs and drowned. Some are execution victims, criminals, or enemies. Some are infants deposited in bogs, perhaps in ancient practices of infant exposure. And the dating of bog bodies is often difficult because the bog environment can produce radiocarbon dating anomalies that make exact dates uncertain. But the subset of adult male bog bodies with the characteristic multiple trauma deaths, ritual positioning, and special last meals are sufficiently consistent to represent a recognizable category of cultural practice. Bog bodies are faces from a world we know almost nothing about, pre-literate Iron Age cultures whose beliefs and practices exist only in fragmentary archaeological evidence and hostile outside accounts. Tollund Man's peaceful face has looked out from photographs and museum displays for 70 years. He was someone. He had a life. He had a name. And then 400 years ago, he was killed in a bog in Denmark for reasons we can reconstruct but not fully understand. The bog kept him. He is still here. That is extraordinary, and the questions his presence raises have no complete answers.